Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Broman Clash, and tonight I want to talk about a topic that's been on my mind for quite some time, and that topic is my take on trends. Now, you may say, like, trends, what's so wrong about trends, Clash? Like, what's so good about trends? What's so bad about trends? Well, if you think about it, trends have, like, the same kind of way of having, like, how should I put it? It's like a herding mentality. Like some people just blindly follow the herd. It's like it's not from Linkin Park, but it's a lyrics to the song. It's called "The Hot Wind Blowing" from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and one of the lyrics says, "The hot wind blowing, jet knives across the sand." But here's the most important one. He said, "Just like the buffalo blindly following the herd, we try to justify all the things that have occurred." Now, even though that was mainly talking about war, even though it was mainly talking about, what was going on in terms of like military wise, but if you think about it, trends are just like that. Like people are like buffalo blindly following either the leader of the pack, even though the leader of the pack is just following his own instincts, his or her own instincts. And, the thing is when you are like when you are like following trends, you're not being yourself. You're ultimately just trying to you're basically committing a fad, or you just following a fad. You're not being yourself. I know that could be very repetitive, or it just sounds almost like, really, I think we've heard this all before. But if you really think about it, the reason why trends could be both a good and a bad thing is because, one, let's start off with the good things. Because certain trends are positive, such as, making sure you exercise every single day, make sure you eat healthy every single day, making sure that, you have a balanced diet every single day, make sure you're reading either every single day or every once in a while, just making sure that, you keep your brain intact. Or as some of the cool kids would say, stay woke, which honestly, man, I really hate that term. As much as some people say I'm woke and all that crap, but let's just keep it real, because woke sounds more like an insult than it does sound like a compliment. And not only that, when you deal with trends, like positive trends, you tend to notice, like, wait a minute, there's stuff that's good for me, and then there's stuff that's bad for me. And then I keep on repeating the stuff that's good for me, while some people will dabble into the bad stuff and then realize why it's bad for them. But mainly the reason why people, deal with trends, and I mentioned before, is to have like a sense of belonging, or just to feel like they have a place in the world. But when you deal with negative trends, such as, like toxic masculinity, manipulation, and, just basically you miss the point of actually being an individual. While there's nothing wrong with being a man, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having principles. But the thing is, if your principles are stemmed from insecurity, like, let's keep it real, everyone's insecure, but as long as your ego doesn't amplify your insecurity, and it turns into like turns into a complete disaster, and then you end up either having a ruined relationship, thus to a ruined life, and then you have a ruined path. Now, remember these two words for later: path and way. Path and way, because this goes on with trends as well. Now, when you deal with trends, like especially negative trends, you start to realize that, okay, you may feel like a euphoric sense of feeling great, like here and there, but after a while you start to realize, like, wait a minute, I'm not really getting anywhere. Like, even my own skill set is being affected, and it's just not good. Like, for example, toxic masculinity. It's the reason why it's toxic masculinity. There might be some toxic femininity as well. But let's focus on toxic masculinity because the belief that you are stronger than women, or you have, okay, it's true that men do have certain advantages over women. Let's just keep it real now. I'm not saying that women are overall weak, but even science is proving like, hey, women, like, men have like a bit more denser bones and all that crap, man. I mean, thinking about it now, the reason why I want to talk about that is not the genetics, but the social. The belief that, oh, men are superior to women, which is bullshit. Because everybody has their advantages and disadvantages. See, look, men, we need women, and women need men. We need each other. Let's just keep it real. Now, when you talk about pride, and when you deal with pride and ego, and you deal with the trend of toxic masculinity, you realize that, hey, you ultimately destroy yourself. Now, when you deal with like machismo, or just like trying to be, macho man, do what you can, macho man, you realize that not many men can do that. But really, the few men that can do it either have like self-confidence in themselves. There's a difference between self-confidence and pride. Now, when you deal with men who are typically much more confident, sometimes you may mistake that as ego, which I did once when I was younger. And you realize, like, yeah. And by the way, Geekdom actually spoke about this topic too, so go watch his video and you'll get like a clearer perspective. But then, when you deal with trends such as toxic masculinity, you realize it's much more destructive than constructive. People get, like I mentioned before, toxic masculinity can lead to not only other people getting hurt, but it can also lead to people getting killed, and also many lives will just be lost. And not only that, here's also another like damning thing you gotta realize too. It damages yourself. And if you are a man, or if you're attempting to be a man through toxic masculinity, which you're not really a man, you're just a little boy who's confused, you realize that, wait a minute, this is not me being a man, this is just me following a trend. This is just me doing what is told of me, not because I choose to do it. Keyword, choice. See, when you're following somebody, you don't really have much of a choice. But when you follow your own way, you have a choice. Now, with trends, like I mentioned before, with the lyrics, just like the buffalo blindly following the herd, you really have nowhere to go, and you really lose sense of who you are. But like I mentioned before, there's a negative side of trends, which people, especially when it comes right down to revolution, people think revolution is a trend. Revolution is not a trend. You may say, oh, this is trendy. Oh, I'm helping people. I'm just being trendy. That seems to be good. Hell yeah. Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I'm being in the trend. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Now, that's where, or, stay woke. I'm woke. Yeah, hashtags. Like, hashtags to me, some of them can spread an awareness. Some of them can be fun, like the phone book challenge, where you just have like a stack of books that you read, or a stack of books that you love right there. And, you just say, like, yeah, these are the books that I read right here. Now, that's trendy, but it has like a positive connotation to it. But, like, some people do it and they actually think like, hey, you know what, man? Let me do it just so I can be popular. Or let me do it because this is cool. Let me do it because everybody else is doing it, instead of just doing it because it's genuinely the right thing. See, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, like, before any of you go off on a tangent and try to say like, oh, so you trying to diss Black Lives Matter? No. I'm not dissing Black Lives Matter in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I do agree with the phrase. Even though America believes that Black lives never mattered, but they are spreading an awareness. It's just that those who do it yet don't really care or were against Black lives originally, but just do it just so they could look like, so they can have good karma points, as I would say it, but really don't care about people in the grand scheme of things. That's what I'm saying. But when you are following trends, now, I mentioned before about way and path. See, when you know your own way, thus you know your own path, then trends really won't mean much to you unless you see a reason in them. Like, for example, I participated in the phone book challenge. You know, like having a stack of books showing like, hey, these are the books that I read right here. You know, because not only it was fun, but I was just like, hey, this is what I was reading right here, just for the hell of it. And not only that, like I mentioned before, I chose to do that. There are certain trends though I'm just like, man, please. Like toxic masculinity, hell no, man. Like, I can't do that. And not only that, when you also choose to do things your own way, you realize like, hey, you know what, man? If you don't like the way I'm doing things, then guess what? That's you. And not only that, when you do your own things and you choose your own path and you do your own and you go your own way, guess what? In essence, you're telling people that, hey, I'm not a follower, I'm a leader. I'm not a trend follower. I could be a trendsetter, either intentionally or unintentionally. But the thing is, when, like, let's just say, like, I'm just walking, and I choose to walk on my own, you know, just, sometimes I put a little step to it, like, you know, just doing that, just for the hell of it. Then everybody starts doing it, and I'm just like, wait, when did this start trending? But the thing is, you know, like, say if you just do things because you just choose to do them. Not because anybody else told you to do it, but because you choose to do it. And I mentioned before how the way trends could actually, in my opinion, trends could actually break revolutions as opposed to make revolutions. You could plant the seeds of thoughts in people's heads, but if that thought turns into a trend, then it ultimately becomes self-defeating, and people just do it because they think it's either safe or they think it's cool. When in fact, revolution is dangerous and it's life-changing. Think about it like that. And some of these trends are pretty dangerous. For example, like the hot water challenge, or the knockout challenge, or like the not breathing challenge. You know, those are trends right there, man. And those have like very dire consequences. And it's just like, come on. You're gonna kill yourself, or you're gonna kill somebody else just to get like a few likes on Facebook, or to get a few retweets on Twitter, or, you know, just to look good in front of a bunch of masses, in front of the masses who never really cared about you. Well, maybe a few do care about you, you know, such as your family or your friends. But if you think about it, when you do your own thing, you realize, like, you know what, man, I'm doing this for me. Even though it took me a long time to realize it, but there's nothing wrong with doing things for yourself, man. In fact, it's good. And the reason why it's good is because, hey, it shows that, hey, not only you are an individual, but you are your own person. You have a brain. You have thoughts. You're able to be yourself. And you don't have to be woke. You don't have to have a third eye. See this right here? I don't have a third eye, even though I have a big ass forehead. But the thing is, when you do your own thing, you show the world that, hey, either you're not following societal norms. There's a difference between societal norms and morality. Societal norms are just like what society tells you is wrong, more while what's morally normal is what you know is morally right and wrong. And some people will agree with your morals, or some people will not agree with your morals, and that's the beauty of it. But the thing is, if your morals overstep or even worse, kill somebody, then you need to change your morals. And how's this tying with trends? Because apparently people think trends have no moral background, even though it may give you the morale to do greater things or to lead you to like a certain path. But really, when it comes right down to it, to have morals, more than likely you will go against certain trends. More than not, you will go against almost all trends because you realize like, what's the point? But at the same time, there are some good trends, such as, eating healthy, staying active, and making sure that you read, making sure that you stay on top of your skills, such as, if you have an art skill, music skill, fitness, you know, acting, dancing, overall what you can do. If you're a carpenter, keep on carpenting, keep on building. If you're a mason or a freemason, keep on building, keep on doing the right thing. And overall, sometimes trends can actually be not only building blocks, but they become habitual. And when your trends become habitual, it can either make or break you. But when your trends make you, then you realize, hey, were they really trends? Or were they just stepping stones? And with that, YouTube, that was my take on trends. Ultimately, trends are what you make them. But most of all, if you are a leader, then you typically do your own thing. Or if you say, you know what, man, let me give this a shot, just for the hell of it. And that's cool. And to the people who say Black Lives Matter and actually truly mean it and actually go out there and do something about it, especially against the injustices that's going on nowadays, good on you. Truly, good on you. And not only that, revolution is not a trend. It will never be fake. Keep on doing what you're doing. Stay up, stay strong. I'm out one at one. And YouTube, catch you later. Later.